Hi everyone, welcome to Under the Rug at Work, where I shine light on problems that are normally swept under the rug. Today I'm chatting with Jana about her experience with bullying and sexual harassment at work. Jana's in Germany and has a background in IT and communications. She's now an empowerment mentor for mothers, specializing in helping mothers to detox their children from smartphones. So needed. Jana, I just want to say thank you so much for your courage in sharing your story.
You're welcome. I thank you for giving me the chance to talk to you and for just in general what you do, Nicole. It's so important, so needed, and I'm very honored to be here and to talk to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So can you tell us a bit about your experience and what happened to you in the workplace?
I worked in the IT world for the past 8 years, and before that, I worked for the state of Berlin, and before that, I was working in an agency doing marketing and PR. I worked as an employee for 12 years, and I would say the general thing is bad leadership. And it doesn't matter if it was a man or a woman. Unfortunately have to say that the women were actually the worst. In my last job, that's probably my worst experience because of the type of bullying I experienced and sexual harassment. And when I say sexual harassment, you always think of a man groping at you, and that's where I always thought, okay, that's sexual harassment. But the way, like in hindsight, because at some point I quit my job, so that's how many years, it's like 1.5 years ago. It just hit me afterwards what happened to me, because I told somebody what happened to me and I started crying and I felt like, oh, that was really intense what happened, and it was not my direct boss. He made a lot of decisions, so he was very important in my organization. And he always put me in my place, I would say, through making annotations towards how I stand, how I look, commenting on my jacket. Oh, I don't like that color on you, for example. In the last part of my job, last stretch, I was responsible for webinars. In the beginning, it was new to me. I was, excited, a bit anxious. And he always used these situations when I went in for the webinar saying, oh, I don't like that color on you. Or afterwards, writing me an email saying, I was just checking up on you, what you are doing there. You seemed nervous. And that was, I think, the only time he ever gave me feedback on what I did. And I was actually very successful in what I did because I was generating a lot of leads. And since he was the sales boss, for him, it was great. He could have commended me on that, but he never did. And that was also something that never happened. When you did something well, that you never got a good job, great, keep on doing that, keep it up. It was always only picking out the stuff you didn't do well. All of that, I think, is really soul crumbling. And it is really, in the end, it doesn't let you grow. It just makes you, it makes you depressed. And especially when I then became a mother, and I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but here in Germany, when you give birth, you have the chance to stay at home for 1 year. You get paid by the state then, and then you get back to your job. And that's what I did. And, I think as a mother, you became more sensitive, much more sensitive to all these things. At least that's what it was for me. And I realized that all these situations that happened, they had a negative effect on me, for my family, and for how I handle my child. And so that was quite interesting to observe. And the worst thing for me that happened was, we all know we also had lockdowns here in Germany, so we were asked to work from home. which for me also was a blessing, total blessing, to not go in that place anymore and to meet these people physically.
Yeah.
But still quite interesting how this energy is still coming across during a Zoom call. And I was in a meeting where I had to present something as well, and there were managers, just managers. I think in total we were 5 people, and I was the only woman in that meeting. And before we started, there's just a little small talk, and my direct boss asked me, "Oh, how are you doing at home?" And then the sales boss, he was like, "Oh yeah, Jana lives there and there, and it only takes you, actually, if you take the train, it only takes you 30 minutes to come to my house." And then my direct boss asked, "Okay, how do you know so much about where Jana lives?" And he said, "Well, because I woke up this morning at her place." So, alluding that we have an affair, whatever. And it was such a blow.
Yeah.
And everybody was laughing, except for me. I didn't even know what to do. And I still needed to do my presentation,
So
which I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And afterwards, I called my direct boss and I said, "Okay, sorry, what is happening here?" He was on a rampage in that meeting, because he also actually bullied my direct boss as well, which is also interesting how men sometimes amongst each other, but it all creates a really awful atmosphere, and I called him and I said, "Okay, what is happening here? This is not okay."
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Oh, come on, why? It was just a joke." And I was just like, "Well, but it didn't feel like a joke to me. It made me very uncomfortable."
Mm.
And it was just, yeah, it was just brushed away. And that was something, that was in the air then. And I really dreaded the calls I had with him alone. I really tried to, and he always gave me tasks that were not doable, or that are really make no sense. You ask questions, "What do you mean by that?" They can't answer it. They say, "Just get it done." And that's what he did as well. And he gave me one, and I did a lot of work for that. A big presentation, had to do it with him alone. And he looked at it and he was like, "Oh no, that's not what I wanted." And I was like, "But I asked you, and this is how it's done." I researched it. I worked for 3 weeks on it. I was like, "But no, I don't need it." "Oh, but thanks." Despite all of that, I still perform, and I still bring this company money. And and this is really something that is so destroying for your soul, for your whole being.
I really appreciate it. And all of the examples that you have provided are 100% bullying and sexual harassment. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Did this guy think that you had a good relationship, or he really
Yeah.
wanted to have it over you?
He treated every woman like that.
Right.
And in my group of female colleagues, I think I was the one who I had some more weight, in the company or in the team, and I was still more able to stand up to something and say, "Okay, this is stupid," or So I think that's what triggered him to go the extra mile, to really try to tell me, "You are not good enough, even though I know you are a threat." That's what I sometimes felt. I am a threat because I'm very good at what I'm doing, and I think it's all unconscious. I don't think he was like making a plan. He was just actually very insecure, and yeah, trying to compensate that through this very cheap way of putting somebody down. He couldn't use my performance.
Yeah.
He couldn't say, "Okay, your performance sucks." He couldn't do that.
How did all of these situations make you feel?
Very anxious. I had a burnout already when I worked for the state, which was also awful in another way, but it was awful. There were the female leaders, which were awful. but that put me in a burnout. So I was already kind of prone to being anxious, and that's what I experienced. Getting up in the morning, feeling very, very anxious, feeling sometimes sick to my stomach, having problems with my gut all the time, and just not happy to start the day. Let's put it that way. And always very aggravated. The whole atmosphere was poisonous, because you could feel, if you have these types of people at the top, of course, it goes down to, and it affects the behaviors of other males, for example. They think, oh, he's doing it, why shouldn't I? So not taking you seriously, or not appreciating your work, never saying, oh, great, what you did for me, always very negative. That was the energy I was in, and that's how I felt. Fortunately, my body, or my experience of a burnout and how it felt, because back then I really got panic attacks, so I couldn't really go there anymore. And back then it was also very awful. It was the same, feeling very anxious, fearful. Sometimes I was drinking in the morning. I was drinking just to be able, because I don't know if you ever experienced fear or feeling anxious. You are not able to move, you are very paralyzed. And that's why I sometimes needed just a small drink, to be able to go to work. So in that last experience, I was already very aware of the signs. So I was able to I had some tools already, because back then I actually needed to get treatment at a clinic, so I already knew a bit, especially through Corona. I got to meet new people, new teachers who taught me different tools as well, which I tried to apply, where I then said, okay, it's enough, I need to leave now.
Yeah. But while you were there, you did try and stop it. You spoke to your boss, you spoke up. Were there other things that you tried? And other than the example that you gave us where he said, it was just a joke, was that what your boss always did, kind of brushed it off? Or did anyone try and help?
No, I never talked to HR, but that was probably because I heard from other colleagues of mine who tried, and that was probably what I went into when I came back after having a child. That two of my colleagues, they actually filed a complaint about my direct boss, and they were shut down. Basically, they were told, okay, you either go with it, you accept what's happening, or you have to leave. And that was, the type of scenario I walked into. And that's why I thought, okay, it doesn't make sense. You are not taken seriously at any stage in this company. You are actually not important. I think that's what it is. You are actually not important in the end. You are supposed to do your work. You have to perform. You have to make the impossible possible. But you are not, when it comes to who you are, what you feel, your safety, feeling safe or feeling comfortable at work and feeling seen, it's not important. But I felt that all the ones who were responsible, who were leaders, they had a distorted relationship to themselves. They were not nice to themselves as well, so I always thought, okay, if they are not able to do that for themselves, how should they do it for me? And that was a way of feeling very hopeless. And that's when you get caught in that complaining. Half of the talks I had with my colleagues, which were actually about work, we complained. We said, oh, and then he did this again.
You had to support each other because you weren't getting that support from the people.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, almost a year we were without a CEO, which is also quite fatal. then we got a new one, and he was really awful because I was in marketing.
Mhm.
Everybody thinks, oh, marketing, I can do that. Everybody can do it. This CEO, we had a big project of optimizing our website, and in the end, we had good results.
Mhm.
And then he stepped in, looked at it, didn't understand anything about SEO and didn't care about it. And then he had a meeting with us as a team. Our boss didn't protect us. He totally destroyed our whole work, saying that that's not what he wants. He wants to have these types of words. And, we always try to explain, but these are not the words people are looking for. We need to do it this and that way. And we really put thought behind it. I think it was a meeting of 1 hour. After that, I was almost ready to say, okay, now I quit now. I'm gone because this is just ridiculous. You almost feel like, who am I talking to? I don't want to be disrespectful.
Mm.
You have these urges to say, okay, this is totally stupid and you are not competent. I'm sorry, you're not competent to say anything about it.
Well,
And let me explain first.
yeah. And you're employed
Yeah.
for a reason, right? Because of
Yeah.
your skills and expertise. So
Yeah.
you should be
Yeah.
able to do the role that you're employed for. And if everyone's trying to do the same job, then you're tripping over each other
And you don't get anything done. You're not successful and you feel useless.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you are made to feel useless.
Yeah.
And that's awful. Awful to go through that every day. This is just innately so damaging to us as human beings because we want to be a good member for a workplace, for society in general. We want to participate. You don't feel that way, at the end of the day, and that's awful.
Looking back on everything that's happened in your career in the situations you've gone through, is there anything you would change? Anything you'd do differently?
Yeah, I would definitely take myself more serious, to really, because I disregarded my feelings as well. When I was thinking about what I want to tell you, even then I still thought, okay, is it really that bad? What happened to me? Is it really that awful? Or was it my fault?
Mm.
And I don't want to say it's my fault, but I had so many moments where I thought, okay, this is not okay. I need to leave.
Yeah.
And to really listen to my intuition, to my body, what my body is telling me. And I probably would be more outspoken.
Mm-hmm.
But Nicole, I didn't know what to say. I didn't have, and that's why I think your work is so important to know, okay, it's okay to say something now. It's my right to say something now. But what do I say and how do I behave? But I didn't know you then, and I didn't know anybody who I could turn to. In the end, it was all supposed to happen that way. Listen to my intuition, to my body, I would say. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty smart. I
Yeah.
have to agree as well. In my
Yeah.
situation, we just take too long to listen to the signs, and then the damage and the harm is done. And as you said, you didn't realize until you got out and your body was
Yeah.
finally able to release. And yeah, that's when the flood
Yeah.
of emotions come through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who might be in the same situation?
Tell people about how you feel and seek out people who take you seriously. And because sometimes even your partner can be like, oh, come on, why do you complain so much? But really find people who say, okay, this is not okay, and find colleagues who you can partner up with and who are also brave. For my part, I didn't find those people. It's okay to quit, even though you don't know what will happen afterwards, because it is brave to quit on your own terms. To say, okay, I quit. I don't know if I have the money. Of course, talk to your partner and don't rush into it. But also ask. That's what I did. Ask my partner, can you provide for us for a while. I need to go now. Then take your time to heal from this environment. And for me, it took 6 months, and that's okay, even if it takes longer. Not to think, okay, I need to have another job in line already, and I need to, because you rush into, it's almost like you're ending a bad relationship and you start the next one. And you will always get back into the same. That's what happened to me before, because I always quit and then I started something new. And it always reappeared. And to heal from it and to really come to the point of thinking, what do I want from work? What type of work? How much do I want to work? For example, I want to spend more time with my child, for example. Can I find a part-time job that pays well or quite all right? How much money do we need? Because that's what I realized as well. We don't need all that money. I need that time. I need that time with my child. I never get it back.
Thank you for joining me, Jana, and for telling your story. Unfortunately, bullying and harassment at work is quite common. And as we said, it's often we don't realize until it's too late. And sharing your story helps others see the signs and know also that they're not alone. But I just want to say that these actions that you've experienced, they are not okay. And you and everyone has the right to be safe at work. And your employer and your manager have the responsibility to provide that for you. And I'm so sorry that this didn't happen for you, Jana. But thank you again. Thank you so much for having the courage to share your story and for being here with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you too, Nicole, and all the best for your business and your service. Thanks.
Thank you.